Lord, we thank you for the opportunity to gather today. We invite your presence into this meeting and ask for your blessing of creativity, innovation, and collaboration among us. Inspire us with fresh ideas and solutions that honor your wisdom and bring positive change. Please grant us the grace to listen with empathy and understanding to one another's perspectives. May our words be filled with clarity and grace as we communicate openly. Guide us in every decision we make, leading us along paths that align with your divine plan and purpose. May your wisdom illuminate our minds and hearts, guiding us towards a productive meeting with an outcome that benefits all involved. Amen. I pledge allegiance to Thank you. Roll call should be going around. We have 22 members present. We'll start with reports by the county executive. Just hands up.
Jess? Okay, good. Jessica, the clerk, is handing out the budget booklets and my letter to the county board. I'll wait till she's done with that for a minute. Luke, a little down. Okay. A little up. That's good. Thank you, Jessica, for doing that. Very nice. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen of the county board, each year at this time we share with you and the public the plan for our financial goals and priorities as we look to plan the Manitowoc County budget for next year. The mission continues to be to keep delivering high-quality services efficiently, taking as little from the taxpayers as we can. Holding the line on the long-term financial goals and priorities haven't changed. They continue to be holding the line on property taxes while delivering high-quality services, keeping our debt low, less than 10% of the statutory maximum limit, continuing with a robust capital improvement program, and maintaining our facilities, county trunk roads, and equipment. The county board should be proud of the way we've held the line on property taxes since 2006. Compare the history of the county property taxes on any property in Manitowoc County, and you will find that we have held the line on county property taxes year after year. In 2025, we received revenues from the local option sales tax of 0.5% for the first time. We have been able to hold off on going to the local sales tax for a long time, but we now have to join the overwhelmingly majority of counties with that revenue source because of growing inflation in law enforcement and human services costs. We will conservatively estimate the local sales tax revenue to be at $7.8 million in 2025 and $8.15 million in 2026. I am proposing that we set aside a special revenue fund to receive the sales tax money and to account for it starting in 2026. Any excess money that we haven't appropriated will accumulate in that special revenue fund. Our financial plan is working well. In the past few years, Manitowoc County has held the line on property taxes and controlled our debt to where it is less than 7% of the statutory maximum limit. We still have an aggressive highway maintenance plan and a robust capital improvement program in 2026 as well. The Manitowoc County budget that I am proposing today calls for a tax levy for operations of $34,145,237 to support total spending of $98,219,616. The levy will increase, but this will result in a slight tax increase for the typical taxpayer in county property taxes, reduced because of the net new construction increase in the equalized property values, measured as an increase of 0.83% from last year, so that the typical Manitowoc County taxpayer will pay 2.6% more than last year in county property taxes. Please look at the charts I've attached to this memo. They were prepared by the finance director and show our history on the distribution of tax levy, historic tax rates, capital spending, and debt. Our priorities for 2026 fall into three main categories. An investment in our employees by raising salaries up 1% on all cells in the pay scale and proceeding with a 20% increase in health insurance premiums for both the employer and employee. Second, continue to concentrate on law enforcement modernization and the expense of the Human Services Department to make progress on mental health, family and child welfare, and the opioid crisis. And third, in 2026, we will have again an aggressive highway maintenance program along with 16.6 miles of road resurfacing and projects of more than $5,366,820. My budget proposal for 2026 contains several key items that I would like to specifically draw your attention to. I'm recommending that we increase the salary cells on our non-bargaining pay plan by 1%. And I'm proposing that we suspend the performance review bonuses for 1 year in 2026, but not the performance review process. Health insurance costs are an important part of our benefits to our employees. As a result of our good experience with the self-funded, self-directed, high-deductible health plan, there were no changes in health insurance premiums for 7 of the last 10 years. Inflation has caught up with us in health care costs too. I am recommending that we raise the premium on our health care plan by 20% on both the employer and the employee share. This will cost nearly $1.1 million. I'm recommending that $683,000 be transferred from the general fund to the Health Insurance Reserve Fund, which represents amounts taken from the Health Insurance Reserve Fund and transferred to the general fund in prior budgets. I'm recommending that Manitowoc County create an information technology department separate from the Public Works Department. County trunk highway road maintenance continues to be a high priority. In 2026, I am recommending that we appropriate $4,087,157 for the Highway Department, with projects including 16.6 miles of road resurfacing. I recommend that we borrow $3 million to support $5,366,000 in highway projects. Several years ago, we adjusted the pay rates for Manitowoc County jailers and emergency dispatchers to recognize market fluctuations. Now we have to recognize that the market rates for salaries for highway maintenance workers have shifted. To deal with that, the Personnel Director, Chris Eisenschig, and the Highway Commissioner, Greg Grodegut, have put together a plan to address it. I recommend enacting this plan on the pay period starting with November 23rd, 2025. The cost of this plan is $2,800 in 2025 and $82,000 in 2026. Manitowoc County has increased needs in the Human Services Department. We have steady workloads for our Children and Families Division, Child Protective Services, Foster Children, and the Clinical Services Division. The Human Services has cut 7.75 positions from the 2025 budget. I am recommending that we appropriate $11.91 million to the Human Services Fund. As you'll see when the independent auditors present their comprehensive report on October 27th, 2025, the auditors transferred $1,053,048 from the ARPA fund, the American Rescue Plan Act fund, to partially fund the accrued deficit from 2023 and 2024 in the Human Services Fund. The result is a deficit in the Human Services Fund of $2,815,480. The ARPA fund has nearly $1 million left in the available fund balance to reduce that deficit as we close that fund out next year. The remaining deficit will be covered from the general fund when the independent auditors finish their work in 2026. This will end the problem caused by my error in the 2024 budget. Several years ago, we joined with all the counties in Wisconsin and most of the counties and large municipalities nationwide in a lawsuit against the pharmacy companies that made and distributed opioids. As a result of these lawsuits, we have received nearly $2 million in damages and are projected to receive more than $4 million in the future until 2038. This is not new money which can be spent on new programs. These are funds for abatement, reimbursement for damages borne by Manitowoc County taxpayers to compensate for the increased expenses, mainly of the Human Services Department, who has fought the opioid crisis since its inception almost 10 years ago. Manitowoc County taxpayers funded these expenses early on, and they should benefit from the proceeds of this lawsuit. The best way to reimburse the taxpayers is to fund the abatement of the Human Services Department, who has the best, most proven programs to combat the opioid crisis. The Human Services Department continues to deal with the opioid crisis, directly or indirectly affecting every aspect: clinical services, mental health, child and family services, child protective services, foster care, and economic support. Therefore, I am recommending that we allocate $950,000 in the opioid legal settlement payments that we have received to the Human Services Department. To do anything different would penalize Manitowoc County taxpayers who supported our efforts. We are prepared to substantiate these opioid expenses, and here are a few examples of the abatement: drug court local cost, the cost of child protective services responding to opioids, crisis contacts for opioids, respite beds for opioid users, clinical services for opioid users, and many more. I will not be recommending any additional positions in Manitowoc County for 2026. In fact, I am recommending a cut in one position in the Health Department and 4 positions in the Human Services Department for 2026. The coroner has requested 2 permanent positions. I am recommending that we do not add these 2 positions in 2026 and wait to consider the recommendations of the medical examiner for the 2027 budget when we switch from the coroner to a medical examiner then. I am proposing that the county executive pay be reduced to the same amount as 2025 and 2026. The executive pay is $108,246 in 2025. The rate of pay in the past several years for this position has grown much more compared to the pay increases of regular Manitowoc County employees. I am recommending a policy change for the future that no employee shall be hired, promoted, or transferred to a permanent position within Manitowoc County if the employee has a close family relationship with a member of the governing body of Manitowoc County. That's the executive or county board members, without the approval by the county board by a majority consensus via a roll call vote. Modernization of the technology in the Sheriff's Department is important too. In 2025, Manitowoc County had a RFP, request for proposals process, with the Public Safety Committee working with the Finance Committee to look at body cams for the deputy sheriffs. They recommended a 5-year lease agreement costing more than $1.3 million. The RFP process tied body cams with tasers in the bidding process and got only one bid because other vendors could not merge their body cams with the tasers. Recently, we discovered information that if we bought the tasers and body cams separately, we would get more bids from vendors and could save more than 50% of the cost to buy, not lease, the equipment. I support body cams for the Sheriff's Department, and I don't want to interrupt the RFP process, so I put in the requested amount in the Sheriff's budget without the artificial intelligence add-on because that would affect staff positions. However, I recommend that the RFP process be reopened and convene again. Let the process continue with the Public Safety Committee and the Finance Committee to explore bids from other vendors without tying the tasers directly to the body cams so we can save this substantial amount of money. Manitowoc County appropriates substantial resources for maintenance projects. We have many examples of failed maintenance in other local governmental entities costing millions of dollars. In 2026, I am recommending that we appropriate in excess of $1 million for the Public Works Department to fund major maintenance of our equipment and facilities for our continuous 5-year program. Most of these expenditures will benefit the county for 15 to 30 years. Manitowoc County Expo had a successful year with attendance at the Manitowoc County Fair. I'm recommending that the $147,000 be appropriated from the Expo Reserve Fund for capital projects that the Expo Board and the Public Works Committee unanimously recommended. I'm recommending the transfer of the remaining bond funds from Phase 1 of the courthouse project to the debt service fund. The final remaining estimate amount of $227,000 to pay off required debt service in 2026. I recommend all the changes in classifications listed on page 32. The general fund is projected to have nearly a $1.15 million surplus in 2025. I am recommending that $450,000 be appropriated from the general fund for the 2026 budget, and the rest of the budget surplus be allocated to the general fund reserve. The courthouse dome renovation project finished Phase 1 in 2025. It was a success, replacing the windows in the courthouse and the HVAC system replacement wrapped up this fall. The county saved almost $1 million from the initial estimate on those bids, and we lit up the courthouse. In 2024, we bought some time with a Band-Aid repairs on the dome facade. Now is the time to go to Phase 2. The second phase of this project is the architectural and engineering services to prepare for Phase 3, the dome repair, in 2028 or 2029. Phase 2 will cost $1.965 million. The opportunity to do that now is because of the relatively low borrowing for highway construction. I recommend that we borrow $1.965 million to fund the architectural and engineering services of Phase 2 for the courthouse dome renovation. In the long run, there is no realistic alternative to rehabilitating the dome on the courthouse. This building will last another 100 years or more if we maintain it. As we wait, the cost will go up and up. We can learn a lot from other government entities who have neglected maintenance and upkeep for their facilities and will be paying an awesome price. It's our duty to preserve the Manitowoc County Courthouse. This is a conservative budget that is holding the line on taxes, continuing our low debt profile, less than 7% of our statutory limit, has an aggressive highway plan and a robust capital spending plan. I'm grateful to the county board for their willingness to join me in making decisions that have allowed us to be successful. We have made good decisions in the past, and we'll keep county government affordable for years to come. I've given most of the county board standing committees some things to consider in this budget. I look forward to working with you. I believe this is a good plan for Manitowoc County. I look forward to your deliberations over the next few weeks, and I would appreciate your support of these proposals. I invite you to meet with me as needed, informally or at the committee level, to help understand your questions and understand details in this budget as you prepare to pass it in November. As always, please don't hesitate to call on me if I can ever be of assistance to you on this or any other issue of importance to you. Thank you very much for your consideration. Thanks.
Ordinance, was that earlier this year, end of last year, to kind of refine and codify the process that we had. And so our corporation council is going to discuss that with us to make sure that we are all on the same page in moving forward with our budget deliberations.
Not particularly a big fan of PowerPoints. For this type of thing, I want to make this more interactive in case there are any questions. Let's do this. Jessica, if you want to take one, pass it on down. What was that? Oh, I think it's easier just take one, pass it around. Sure. Yeah, there's nothing particularly special about the presentation either. And again, I want to make this more of just an opportunity for everybody to posit questions to me, just run through the process and make sure everybody kind of is understanding and is comfortable with where we're going. So back in, it was late 2024, we passed an amendment to our ordinance, our county laws, with the intention of kind of clarifying our budget process. I don't think anything was intended to change things substantially. It was just trying to give people more guidance, more opportunities for input, making sure the public kind of understands exactly what we're doing. Included in that ordinance is a section for county board, basically the county board process, county board responsibilities. My memo summarizes that. I'm gonna go through, if you look on the screen, you're gonna see where it says county board review. This is the county board section. This is a copy of what our ordinance looks like. The memo was intended to paraphrase that. I'm gonna go through each individual item. There's just a small handful. So we can probably get through this pretty quickly, unless there's questions, and in which case, just stop me on questions on the whole process. Yeah, Don. That's a great question. I don't know. Well, hold on. Here's what's gonna happen. I'm gonna show you. So as soon as we go to one, we got the small, I blew it up into the bigger one. So I hope that helps for everybody to be able to see a little bit better. So, I tried to make it a little bit more identifiable. And if not, quite frankly, refer to the memo. The memo paraphrases the ordinance language, okay? That's the purpose of it. So the first step in the process is that a county board chairperson is going to designate distribution of the relevant portion of the budget to go to the home committees. So the budget that affects the sheriff office is gonna go to public safety. The portion that relates to personnel is gonna go to personnel, and so on and such forth. That's all that's saying. Nothing more complicated than that. It's just to ensure that the relevant committees get the relevant portions of the budget. Quite frankly, you have it in your hand already. So it's very straightforward. A lot of these are going to be very straightforward, quick, check the box. It's what we do. This is just intended to kind of codify it. And quite frankly, a lot of this language was there before. All right, so next slide. Next point. Oversight Committee is going to review the expenditures and revenues, hold public meetings on the proposed budget. Notice the word shall in there. There was an intention when this ordinance was adopted for the committees to meet and consider the relevant departmental budgets. So that the idea is that that this does go in front of committee. Committees do take a look at the relevant budgets and do take action if they need to. Oversight committees can convey proposed budget amendments then to the finance committee. So if there's any amendments, those then need to go to the finance committee. In this particular case, it's down as by November 1st. That should give the finance committee hopefully enough time in order to consider any proposed amendments. So what's happening is the home committees, they're proposing amendments. Those amendments then are going to finance to consider. Yes? And that's the $1 million question, right? So I'm not, as corporation counsel, I'm not the budget police, meaning I'm gonna go out and make a committee meet. The intention when this was passed was that all of the home committees were going to meet to consider the budget. I can tell you that that's what the intent was for including the word shall in the ordinance. So the idea is, yes, there is an opportunity for supervisors to propose amendments to those budgets because those committees will meet and consider those.
So just to clarify, if a committee doesn't meet, am I allowed to propose a change at the floor level?
Let me get that down. That's gonna be one of the, probably, it's not gonna be the last slide on here, it's the last bullet point on my memo, and that's a very important bullet point. We're gonna get to it sooner than that, and that's where the discussion is going to, I suspected, take place, all right? All right, so the next issue is Finance Committee shall review proposed amendments, that's their role. So if there is proposed amendments to the budget that are forwarded from home committees, Finance Committee then considers whether to adopt or not adopt any of those proposed amendments. County board has to hold a public hearing. That's statutory. We've already got that scheduled. What's our date? I think it is the October 27th is the date for our public hearing. Again, we're just codifying what has to happen anyways. County board is going to deliberate on the budget, has to be at designated dates in November. Again, we have that date already. That's November 4th. That's already been scheduled. We schedule that every year. And this one is the one that goes to what Supervisor Phipps was bringing up. So the reason there's strikeout in the last sentence is that's what was struck out from when this was proposed. This particular ordinance amendment was proposed. So we struck that last part out. The first part basically says any amendment proposed by a supervisor has to first be presented to an appropriate oversight committee. Then if either the oversight committee or, in this case, the finance committee does not adopt the proposed amendment, supervisor may present the amendment to the full county board when the county board deliberates on the annual budget, okay? And I kind of anticipated this question coming up of, well, what happens if an oversight committee doesn't meet, right? Well, the way I read this, well, two things. First, I think oversight committees should be meeting because I think that's part of the ordinance, but in the event that they don't, as long as you present it to the oversight committee and they don't adopt it, or finance committee doesn't adopt it, I think under the plain language of the ordinance, then that can go to county board because they didn't adopt it. You presented it as a supervisor, but then they did not adopt it. It meets the two kind of part test of this. Yes, please.
Sir, would you say that that would be like email confirmation that you sent that to the committee and they did not adopt it?
Yeah, I think if you, oh, speaking of the microphone. Yeah, I think if you send an email to the committee chair saying, hey, I would like to propose decreasing the FTE positions in Department X by, 25, and it never gets considered, yeah, I think that's then fair game to come to county board. I'm gonna add this though. In those types, whatever the proposed amendments are, even though the last part of this was struck out, which was you need to talk to JJ and I 48 hours in advance of the county board, I'm going to strongly encourage you that if it doesn't go to committee, talk to JJ and me, because otherwise it can really be a headache for the county board and the county board supervisors on the floor if we start getting things flying around. So again, just using my example, motion to, and I think this was a motion last time, we're gonna cut 10 positions in the county. We don't know what they are, where they are, fiscal impact, does it have grant implications, does it have levy implications, those types of things. Talk to us. We're here to help you. We're not going to disclose it. We're not going to get that information and start running around and saying, supervisor so-and-so is going to be proposing this. Discretion is key, particularly in my department. We're going to keep things discreet. If you have something that you want to propose, talk to us early, talk to us often. So when it comes up, if it's going to go to the county board, particularly the county board floor, we can present it so it can be a complete package and the county board can consider it at the time the budget deliberation is going on with the information that the full county board needs. So that's the emphasis part of that. So I hope everybody's gonna find that helpful. And the rest of this is pretty perfunctory. Please.
To that, or ask a question. So if that supervisor comes to committee and doesn't have that motion prepared correctly, what's that committee supposed to do?
And that's a question. And I think that's where we're gonna all have to be a little bit flexible. And I think if I don't wanna be overly formalistic, and I don't wanna see our committees getting overly formalistic in having things presented, using magic words or those types of things. Again, talking to JJ and I early will help formulate the magic words correctly. If it's a concept though, I think concepts can go to the committee and the committee can accept, reject, or quite frankly, ask for clarification from whomever, me, JJ, the supervisor of, hey, is this what you're intending? This is how we would have to accomplish it. But as long as I think the broad concept is presented to the committee can either act on it or not act on it. Let's use the simple example, cutting, it comes to personnel, let's cut 10 positions. Personnel can look at that and say, no, there's not enough detail, we're going to reject it. Or alternatively, they can look at JJ and I and say, how do we manage this? Where do we go with the 10 positions? At that point, some of the baseline information is there, and we can use those seeds to at least try to flesh out what is being sought after. So again, it's gonna be up to the committees to say, yeah, that's a good idea, no, that's a bad idea. We're gonna adopt that, we're not gonna adopt it, we're gonna explore it, we're not gonna explore it. Does that adequately answer the question? Yeah, it's not all black and white, but I don't think we wanna get in a situation of, we need these particular magic words. Quite frankly, just look at what was struck out on the language where we were talking about the 2/3 vote. Supervisors didn't like the idea necessarily to have to come to JJ and I. That was part of that discussion and part of that debate. So some people like the formalistic process, some people don't. I think we're gonna have to use it as a balance in some particular cases. But as long as that idea is presented, at least we can use that seed to try to develop and flesh out what needs to be done. And then last two are actually really easy. Okay. Annual budget adopted by the county board has to be presented to the county executive for approval or objection pursuant to Wisconsin statute. Again, that's statutory. And then a meeting it has to be scheduled, at least you have to give the county executive at least 7 days after a veto in order to schedule that meeting. So that's what it all comes down to. If there's gonna be a potential veto override. Supervisor Hanson.
Just wondering about the timeline here. I think I told my committee we'd meet on the 20th. We may have to move that to the 27th for finance. And I guess I would ask that if you're one of the other standing committees and you're bringing a concern, that you would let us know a little bit ahead of time so we can get that on the agenda. We'll meet at 4:30 at the what? Emergency Operations Center. We'll meet in that big room that we see. Okay. Public safety. Okay, we'll meet it in the basement or the first level where we always meet. And we'll do that at 4:30 on the 27th. So if any of the committee members have a concern with that date, it changed from the 20th earlier tonight. And we will do that. Now, my hope is those committees that bring concerns, we'll bring them that night. Also, I think if you're a county board supervisor and you're bringing something, that's great. If you could talk to JJ or somebody and get the financial implications of what you want to do, that would be great also. So if you're bringing in, I want to do this, build this road, cut these people. If we had an idea of how much it might cost, that would help the cause of it passing the board also, if the board had an idea, just for your information. And I'm not sure, I'll talk to Supervisor Falkowski later, whether or not we will have a joint Public Safety Finance Committee meeting over the issue with the Sheriff's Department and the request of the executive tonight. Does that make me legal?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
I think, the key takeaway that I really want everybody to emphasize on is we're here, I in particular am here to answer questions. If you have a question, here to assist you through the process, so. Oh, Supervisor Lillibridge?
Yeah, this meeting we're gonna have on the 27th here, what time is that?
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock, and we're gonna meet at 4:30. Supervisor
Um, Supervisor Hacker?
I just have a question for infinite clarity. So a committee that is not scheduled to meet in this timeframe, are you suggesting that we call a meeting and put out the public notice and all of that just for this
For the budget?
issue?
That is absolutely, I would suggest that that is absolutely the case. Particularly if a county board supervisor has a proposed amendment to one of your departments that is being affected. Yeah, absolutely. You need to know what's going on with your departments. That's, part of the function of the oversight committee, is to set the broad policy for that department, and one of the most effective ways to set broad policy is through the budget.
Peter, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
So there's a part, I think can you back up? I just want to make sure I get the wording right and understand it. The one about the public hearing and that the finance committee's recommendation. I think it was near the bottom. G, okay. No. So it says, the county board, it's item E. The county board shall hold a public hearing on the county executive's budget as amended by the finance committee at its annual meeting. So how I'm understanding that is that if our annual meeting is on the 27th of October, the finance committee has to have heard and made a recommendation on all proposed amendments before the 27th. Am I understanding that correctly? Yes. So can anything happen then between October 27th and November 4th? Yes. So we can still...
And that's the purpose of the public hearing. So finance committee has a budget, as they've amended it, presented to the public. Public gets to put in their input. In time, as presented, at that point, it's the county board's budget, it's the finance committee's budget, it's now, that's the active document. Anything else? And if any other questions pop up along the way, again, contact me, please. Yeah.
If the hearing is the 27th, then we have to meet before then. Correct? But if we go the 20th, I don't think that gives some of the committees time to meet if they haven't met. Twice? I'll look at the calendar. Maybe we can do it later in the week. I'll ask the members if we can do it perhaps Thursday or something. That would give the other committees time to get together and send us concerns that they have. Okay.
Any other questions?
If not, I'm gonna shut it down.
Okay. So announcements, it sounds like the schedule is tight, and we're going to have to work through that. Supervisor Marsh, did you want to speak?
Yes, I was just discussing with our personnel committee about setting up a meeting. And I do have to check with the personnel director to make sure she's available. And we are thinking about October 16th. That's a Thursday at 4:30. So that's what I'm going to talk to Chris about. Just thought I'd let everybody know. Thank you.
I think maybe too it would be helpful because October is an odd time for scheduling meetings in general. As committees get their meeting dates to the clerk, we can maybe put together a document, like a meeting announcement for the month of October even to kind of,
So for the budget meeting.
for the budget meetings, that might be
That would
helpful.
help finance then determine when their meeting would be.
Right, because I'm sure many committees, if they're interested, well, they should meet before we vote on the final budget to give an opportunity. So I think that would be good to kind of have all those in one place. So we can plan to be at those meetings if we want to. Supervisor Falkowski?
When can we expect the document? When can we expect the document that the departments made requests?
I've put in requests to the finance director for those, and it sounds like it's going to be as soon as possible is the answer that I received, so.
My committee is meeting for their budget on Thursday.
Right. We want to have those for the meetings, obviously, because that's something that we want to consider. Any other discussion? Otherwise, I have just wanted to remind you, under announcements, it says our annual meeting is on the 27th of October. November 4th is when we have set aside to vote on the budget. And then November 11th, I want you to all tentatively have on your schedules as well for, I guess if we would need more time to consider the budget or to consider any potential vetoes of the budget as well. So we would need to meet, I think it says fewer than 7 days after the budget is approved, to consider vetoes by the county executive. So November 4th and 11th as well, you would want to have on your calendars meeting at 6 o'clock. All right. No other announcements? Yes, yep. So when you get your committee meeting set up, please email Jessica so that way she can distribute that to the county board. No other announcements, otherwise I'd be looking for a motion to adjourn. Motion by Supervisor Falkowski, second by Supervisor Hacker.